Randomly pick a town in the UK over 20,000.
So I'm looking for a warehouse or I'm looking for some commercial land.
I'm looking now at Bury St Edmunds.
What about a name for the business?
Yeah, a name for the business.
Whereas if the maximum revenue is 150, a member of staff is never going to pay off. Some people do sell packaging and boxes and padlocks and things. The percentage is typically so small, like 1.5%. I generally wouldn't be wanting to come into somewhere and just kind of undercut, because that can be a race to the bottom. Hello, and thank you for joining myself and my colleague Steven Hylands. We are going to record something that we haven't done before. Basically, we're going to pretend we're looking to open up a new self-storage site, and we're going to start with nothing, and we're going to go through all the different steps that we would use to basically find a site, how we'd think about it, and all the different steps about like looking for a good location. So we'll see how it goes. Should be a bit of fun. Steven is actually having a beer. And he's forced me to have one as well. So we're hoping to make this kind of just pretty relaxed and just a bit of fun going through how we would look for new sites. So we're actually going to start by just assuming it could be anywhere. So we're going to ask, I think, ChatGPT to pick a town or a city in the UK. Is that right, Stephen?
That's correct.
And then we're going to focus on that. We're just going to say that that's where we're going and that's it. So we're going to...
So we're just going to ask it for a site in the UK, a town in the UK, maybe over a certain population. Do you have a population maybe that you would like to...
Probably over maybe 20,000.
Okay, so we'll develop some criteria here. So we're going to say on ChatGPT, randomly pick a town in the UK over 20,000. Mm-hmm. Any other criteria, Gavin?
No, I think that's... No, go for it. Yeah, I think that's good.
Let's see what it comes back with.
Where are we looking?
So we're looking in Bury St Edmunds in Suffolk.
Bury St Edmunds. Okay, I hope we don't have any customers in Bury St Edmunds because they might be. They might love this. But anyway, we're going to just go. That's what we're told.
A fictional business, not a real one.
So just Google. So it has a population of 35,000 people.
Yeah.
And it is. Let me have a look. See where it is. So it is outside Cambridge. Okay. So let's assume we're in Bury St Edmunds. We want to find somewhere that's relatively close. So we're going to look for some sites. But before we do that, we're going to we want to kind of see what self-storage businesses already exist there. Right?
Yeah.
So step one, so before that, let's remind ourselves, in the UK, there's about 0.8 square feet of self-storage supply per capita. So with Bury St Edmunds, with a population of 35,000 people, let's just think about roughly how much self-storage do we think will be possible to supply. So 28,000 square feet of self-storage space for the population of Bury St Edmunds should be pretty easy to fill. Okay, so 28,000 square feet. So now we've got to go and find out what is already in Bury St Edmunds. Are there any sites? Now we're going to use a special tool. Stephen, do you want to introduce that?
Yes, so we're using a tool called StoreTrack. So this is, I suppose, like a massive data application built for self-storage. So it gives you all sorts of insights around things like finding sites, but even beyond that about competitors, pricing and things like that. So it's originated in the US, but actually recently they've launched in the UK. So we're just going to try it out and see what happens. So yeah, I'm going to pull it up here and I'll just search for Bury St Edmunds.
So we're saying that StoreTrack it's a US company. Actually, it's run, the CEO's a guy from Northern Ireland.
That's right, yeah.
Just up the road from here. So they've also sent us if you go to storetrack.co.uk, they've sent us a link, a code for anyone who wants to try it out. It's a 50% off single market reports. So if you want to use this promo code, if you want to check out StoreTrack, storetrack.co.uk, and use the code StoreAFriends to get 50% off. Now, we're not making any money on that, so that's just for anyone to use. So StoreAFriends, all in capitals. You type that in. If you want to sign up for a single market report, you'll get 50% off.
So I'm looking now at Bury St Edmunds. There are a few facilities I can see already. There appears to be a couple of container yards. There's 4 container yards and 2 standard self-storage. I'm assuming they're indoor facilities. Now I can click into any of these. If we go to this one here, Home Store, Self-Storage Bury. In this tool, I can see the profile for that business.
Which one's that, Stephen?
That is home store, self-storage,
Home
Bury.
store, yes, I'm on their website at the moment, actually. I just Googled this as well. So they're an indoor site.
So it says they've got a total square footage of 45,000, total rentable of 34,000.
It says this in StoreTrack.
That's what StoreTrack data is giving us, yeah.
Okay. So that rentable space of 34,000, that is a lot for a population of 35,000, where we thought 28,000 was the max.
Yeah, so
Okay,
I can
bad
drill down into the data and see about, you can see all sorts of information like the website, which I can pull up here.
Yeah.
Giving some people some free advertising here, I think, if we're going through this, Gavin.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, no, it's
That's
great to see. It looks like a nice indoor store.
Yeah, home store. Okay, so then we also then, what else can you see there?
So we can see more information about the town of Bury St. Edmunds. So the market summary gives us we can choose the radius around it that we want to search. So we can look and see within, different what facilities are in the different radius.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the total net rentable square foot in the area of the radius I've got selected, which is 3 miles at the moment. You can see the square foot per capita, which is 3.7.
Is the current supply in the area?
Current supply.
Is that what that means?
As a square foot per capita, I'm not sure if it's current supply.
Okay.
It says square foot per household is 7.35.
Okay.
It says there's a total stores of 6, mid-sized 2 and small 4. And there are 2 new developments actually as well, so you get information on what's being developed. So we can actually click in here as well. I can see the known developments and the amount of square foot that's being developed.
Okay, so it looks like maybe just not spend a whole lot of time on this particular stage of it, because we're going to just assume we're going to look for a site in Bury St. Edmunds. Yeah. I'm also on Blue Bear Self Storage, who we know. There's also Bury St. Edmunds Self Storage.co.uk, container sites. RoughhamEstate.com also has container storage there as well. So there's definitely a good bit of supply.
Absolutely.
In this area. Yeah. And it may be that 0.8 number is kind of a UK-wide number, but if you go into London, it's a lot higher than 0.8. It may be that these areas, which are probably more affluent areas, that might have significantly higher self-storage. So we're sort of breaking the rule, I think, a little bit, which is like try and find a place where there's obviously lacking in a lack of supply.
And how would you suggest to somebody to compete if they wanted to open an area like this? Like, what would you tell them not to? Just don't try, or what would you normally do?
It would depend where else. I would, if this was me and we were actually doing this real life, I'd be looking, like, you might as well make life as easy as possible.
Yeah.
So I'd be looking at other towns around, like there's Newmarket, there's Mildenhall, is it Thetford, Kilverstone, different towns around the area that look like they may have decent populations as well.
Yeah.
And checking those out and just trying to see.
If you zoom out in StoreTrack, we can see then the facilities there, so it's a good way to kind of gauge, I think, quickly, like what sort of supply is there in the nearby areas as well. And like Newmarket there has 2. I'm not sure what the population is, although I suppose I can by just clicking and checking. So if I use Newmarket as the town centre now, it's going to give me number of people who live there.
You'd need to go and do some more on-the-ground research, I would say. Like, go and visit these sites, find out more about the size. Like that home store, if it's 34,000 rentable space, is that number accurate? Is it full? Like, is that place full? Turning away customers? That's information I'd want to know first as well. And stuff we probably just don't have time to do right now. But so I'd call around. Let's assume you call around and you conclude we're going to go for it and open up something. The next step is some desktop research to sort of see like what's available. So I'm just going to Google here. I don't know where you would search for commercial property, but I'm going to just
and are you looking to buy or to rent?
Well, let's just assume either. Okay. I think if all being equal, you'd rather buy if you've got the cash.
So would you be looking for land to build, or industrial, like kind of warehousing? What's your preference? What are you going to start with?
Well, I would look at what's available. Like Home Store, there have a really nice looking indoor site. So is that enough? Is that enough for the area? I'd be open to either. I used to sort of think that container sites, or it was better to go indoor because it's more easily defensible because you have to spend more on an indoor site. Whereas a container site, kind of anybody can do it if you've got like 50 grand or whatever to open up some containers. But containers, there's plenty of demand for them. and from a pure return on investment, it can be a great investment too. So I'd look at either. So I'm on Rightmove at the moment.
So what are you looking for in a site when you're looking at this list?
I am looking for either, first of all, I'd look for warehouses. So let me see, there are only 11 results here. So this is for sale. So I'm looking for a warehouse, or I'm looking for some commercial land. Those are the two things I would look for here. There is a 4,000 square foot warehouse for sale for 1.45 million, which is, a lot based on the prices I'd be looking at here in Northern Ireland. But there's a warehouse, maybe a bit of land. I'm not seeing much in the area. This is always the problem with self-storage. It's the biggest challenge, finding sites. It's always a problem. Here is a warehouse here, which is 7,339 square feet in the Rougham Industrial Estate, which is presumably next or in the same place as the container site we're looking at, we saw as a competitor. But it's on at £4,125 per month. So that works out at, let's just call it £50,000 a year, 7,000 square feet. You're actually talking about, £7 a square foot roughly there for that place a year, which potentially isn't terrible. It's actually potentially really good in that area. So I'm just going to click on that to have a quick look at it. It may be that it's not really usable space. That looks like a pretty solid enough building to me. So that looks pretty good. Is it high enough for a mezzanine? It does. You could even put a mezzanine floor in there potentially and double it up. Looks like decent access. Now, it looks like this site is actually at the place where the guys have their container business. So just because I see containers there. So it may be that maybe as a standalone, you wouldn't do this because you'd be competing with the people there. But that looks like an interesting option. I'm going to go back. Maybe come back to that in a second. Here's a warehouse in a modern warehouse. Ooh, very high eaves, 13.4 meters. This is a good one. So here, what size is it? 22,500 square feet of warehouse storage with massive eaves. It's fitted out as an office at the moment. So, there's also a huge warehouse. So this is going to be really good for distribution warehousing. But if you were going to build a self-storage business, you'd be taking this and putting in 2 or 3 floors of mezzanine. You'd be talking about a huge site there. So potentially that's too big for this particular location. I don't know. And there are others. There's another one. Here's one which looks interesting as well. £6.25 a square foot. That's interesting too. That isn't, as far as I can tell, in the same area as a competitor. So should we maybe just go with this one? Let's go with this.
Yeah, let's
The
try
alternative,
that.
of course, is finding some land and putting containers on.
Yeah.
So maybe we do that at a different time. Let's just go with this.
Great.
Okay. So now we're thinking, okay, we're going to go for this warehouse. I haven't looked at it long, but let's just assume we'll go for this. So I would not now, look, if we're doing this in real life, I'd go and spend some time at this point before I got too far. I'd go and spend a bit of time in Bury St Edmunds.
Yeah.
It's one of the things I'd like go and kind of get a feel for the place. But you could also go and get a financial model built. So like a really early financial model.
Yeah, but first of all, we could look it up on Street View and see what it looks like.
Oh, yeah.
If you send me the address, I will.
Okay, yeah, good idea.
Can pull it up.
So it's IP33 3TX is the postcode.
Okay, pulling it up now.
I'm going to bring up the financial model then.
Looks like quite a built-up area from satellite view here. Yeah, it's actually, so it seems to be in a bit of an industrial area with some home furniture shops, car dealerships. So you'd imagine there's quite a lot of through traffic coming through, which obviously, ideally you're looking to be as visible as possible to the public when you open a facility, because still a lot of business comes from just people passing by and becoming aware of you through the signage. So potentially good signage opportunities.
Okay. So we're going to go for it.
Let's do it.
Okay. So I've been on the store website, and I am going to download the free financial model. So let me see what's the size here. So we have 9,399 square feet. So I'm going to plug those numbers into our calculator here. So size of the facility included 9399. Was it 9399 or 93? Yep, 9399. Let's assume I'm going to put in £30 a square foot here. Sure, it's a pretty affluent area. Let's assume we get 25% of the corridors fitted out, 25% of the space is used for corridors. Let's say we're going to hit 80% occupancy. Additional space rented per month. Okay, so that's a calculator. That's what we need to hit every month. Let's say it takes us 3 years to fill, so 36 months. And we're going to say 10% of our income will come through insurance. Now the asking rent here is $625. So let's just plug in the asking. That is that's calculated. So let's say business rates, I don't know, let's just say they're £2 a square foot instead of £1. Let's say you've negotiated a 6-month rent-free period. We feel our monthly costs. Let's say you're paying a bit for payment processing. Let's say so this is assuming we're going to go with a smart entry system. So with a smaller site like this, I would be going with a smart entry system, because you don't. What is this? 9,399 square feet. You're not going to put member staff into a site that size, I don't think.
What do you think the max sort of size would be before you would consider a staff member?
It really comes down to the revenue as opposed to the size ultimately. Okay. Like is the maximum revenue £150,000 or is the maximum revenue 1.5 million?
Yeah.
Because then if it's 1.5 million, then if you spend 40 or 50,000 pounds staffing the place, are you going to take the 1.5 up to 1.7 and get a good return? Whereas if the maximum revenue is 150, a member of staff is never going to pay off, because they're never going to return more than their cost. It's going to be a cost, not a boost. So just at 9,399 with £30 a square foot, I mean the most this business will turn over is probably about 170, 180,000 pounds if those numbers are right.
Yeah.
So, and that's at 100% occupancy probably, or something like that. So, I would be thinking more staffless for this one. So let's assume it's £18 to fit it out, including a smart entry system. So initially we're recommending you need £130,000. You would in total need £260,000. By year 4, we're projecting you'd be making a 28.8% return on your investment.
Cool.
I'm actually thinking about moving over to some various Edmonds now and opening this.
So you don't need to move with a smart entry system.
That's true. I just mean go over for a week and get it opened.
But even if you did go over and open this, you would still need, I would imagine, somebody in the area to be working in some capacity to look after it in some way, or at least clean the facility.
Exactly. That's one thing I have learned with my own sites here is you need to have somebody who can go there. Something can go wrong. Things can go wrong. You need to have somebody nearby.
Yeah.
Okay, so the model looks pretty good. We're assuming we'll fit out a third of the business at the start, a third after 1 year, and the final third after year 2. I think that's looking pretty good. Good to me. A 28.8% return is by year 4 is not bad. Okay, so we've got our location. We've found a site. The financial model looks good. You'd go and spend a bit of time there.
Yep.
What next? Or what else? What have we forgotten so far? What about a name for the business?
Yeah, a name for the business. I don't know if we wanted to get into marketing yet and that side of things, but I suppose we could.
Well, why don't you go, let's go to ChatGPT, ask it for a name.
Well, yeah, we could do that. Are we planning on starting a chain, or do we want a few businesses? Do we want one business, or what's our approach here? What are we looking for?
So the reason you're asking that is because would you call it after the name of the town?
Yeah, so
where you might be limited if you want to grow up new sites. So
we see lots of people naming their business after their town. So in this case, would be Bury St Edmunds Storage, and then 2-3 years later realize this is going really well. I want to open another site. But no, I don't. What do I call it? I don't want to call it Bury St Edmunds 2. So, what we find, several of our customers who've grown over the last few years, they would end up rebranding. So sometimes, there is definitely benefits to having the name of your town and self-storage as the brand name from SEO perspective more than anything. But probably long term, it's better to have a brand that can expand. So something more not generic. Ideally, you can tailor it to the audience you'll be serving, but something that's more flexible anyway.
Yeah. So
we could go to ChatGPT and ask for a name, but we actually at Store we already have a brand marketplace, and just going to pull it up here on my screen just because we already have thought about this. We spent a lot of time in the last few years thinking about self-storage brand names, and we've had endless sessions of coming up with different names. So we have quite a few already. Quite a few we've sold, but maybe we'll just pick from one of the ones that isn't sold.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
So we have Ace Space is one.
Ace Space.
Store Garden. We have Space Bud, Stellar Storage, Cell Stow would be the main ones.
Well, let's pick Ace Space then, will we?
Yeah.
Ace Space.
That's one of my favourites.
Okay, so we've got Ace Space. So we've got our brand. How much, out of interest, if we were buying that off our marketplace, how much would that be?
It's £1,995, which gets you the brand, the domain name, and also you get 20% credit off your store account as well.
For how long?
For a year, I think.
Oof, that's very generous. What were we thinking?
Yeah.
Okay, so you'd get that if you bought that brand. So if you bought the brand, you get all that stuff just like ready to go. You could, of course, go and design your own, and most people come up with their own names.
Yeah, and we appreciate most people will just do that,
Yeah.
and most of our customers do that as well. So, a brand is quite personal a lot of the time to somebody, so it's worth thinking about. And we obviously have these options that you can, if you're stuck for ideas, they're there if you need them.
Yeah.
We want to help people get started ultimately, but definitely think about it. The one thing I would say when it comes to branding is do put effort into it. Don't skimp on it. Like it is becoming easier and easier to skimp on it, I suppose, because you can get AI tools to generate logos for you, but it is nice to put some thought into it and think about not just the look, the positioning, what are your brand values, and all these things. But for now, I think we're Ace Space.
Okay, we're Ace Space. And if anyone's listening and they've got a name, we do have we've some of the people who did the work for us on the branding. We could put them in touch with people. So if you've got a name, you'd like some help with just turning it into like logos and something that looks good, you can get in touch and we can put you in touch with somebody who can help you out with that. So Ace Space. Okay, so we've got the brand, we've got the name, we've got the website.
We don't have the website yet.
Sorry.
But we could have it very quickly.
But there's a domain with that, yeah. What's the domain? Acespace dot.
So it's acespacestorage.com.
Okay, so we've got acespacestorage.com.
Yep.
Let's assume, for the purpose of this call, we're going to use Stora.
Okay.
So you're going to have a website very shortly with everything up and running. So we can start to promote it and take bookings and everything else.
Yeah. Stick your website up as soon as possible, we would always recommend, even before you open, because your domain will get indexed by Google, which means people will actually potentially find you. Make sure there's a way for them to pre-register their interest. So it's just a way of kind of, you can get ahead of yourself. That's why it's good to decide on the brand early. You don't want to, day one, you open the facility and it's the first time anybody's hearing about you. You want to, it's self-storage, so it might not seem all the time like the most exciting thing in the world, but people can, be interested in what's opening in their area. So you want to be doing things like even leafleting, some SEO work, potentially also some Google ads, just to kind of drum up some initial awareness of the business.
So that's a pre-opening mode in Stora. So with Stora, you can get everything set up, put it in pre-opening mode, and that gets you the website up. And let's say if we could fast forward now 3 months, we've agreed terms with the site. We've taken out a 20-year, 40-year lease on the site. We know that it's going to get fitted out in the next 6 months sometime.
Yep.
There's no good reason not to just launch a pre-opening website. Just get on with it. You might as well.
As long as, obviously it's one thing we find, in self-storage is that people, they have an idea when they're going to open, but usually it takes a lot longer. It's just in the UK in particular, things seem to take longer than they should a lot of the time. And usually it's not your fault. Usually it's the supplier in some ways holding you back. But still, all I would say is don't put necessarily the opening date unless you're sure that it's going to open on there.
Yeah, but you can start to write blog articles. We'd probably release an article a week, Berries of Devon self-storage. That's what we would do in this case over the next 3 to 6 months, wouldn't we?
Yeah, and I'd be focusing on getting I'd be on Instagram, I'd be on Facebook, pumping out social content. Just you're trying to build an audience really, just to kind of have like some awareness before you open. And
I think the expectation of building an audience for a self-storage site should be low. It's not that exciting a product.
Sure.
But a lot of the content it's to build an audience, but also just to be found online. So Google finds you and starts to rank you, right? Like, and you could do a lot of that work before. By the time you open, if we were doing this, by the time we opened, we'd want to be probably in the top 1, 2, or 3 in SEO results, wouldn't we? Like, would expect to achieve that.
Yeah, it might be difficult in a competitive area, but you should at least be doing everything you can to appear as high up as possible, as early as possible.
Yeah, so you want to be found. All right, so what else? Any other considerations then before you open? Signage. That's always like, if you have got a good road frontage, get great signage.
Yeah, well, it's important. Having a logo unlocks a lot of things that need to happen. So yeah, good road front signage is important. It's clear that you just need to stand out. You need to be seen. So obviously people go for bright colours in self-storage a lot of the time for that reason. Probably best to write on your business side front that you are self-storage in case it's not in the name. Can be easily forgotten about. You want to put your contact details on there, depending obviously on your preferred booking approach. So you probably should be thinking about this too, is how do you want to run the business? Because we've already kind of determined that we are going to have an unmanned automated facility, it probably lends itself well to online booking flow, but also you don't have to do that. You could be still based somewhere else, working remotely, taking inquiries on the phone. But in this scenario, I would imagine we put our website domain on there. We would have a phone number because it's always good to capture, customer needs from a phone call.
We have a store customer who has a really big site, and he gets his pricing, so has the pricing behind a contact form, and he has a team of people already working for him in India who are doing a lot of the sales, and they're seeing huge conversion rates of people making inquiries online.
Yep.
So with store, there's a few different choices. It's just show your prices, let people book. There's hide it behind get your pricing, so get a contact before you show pricing, then let people book then if they want, but you can always contact them and follow up. And then the third option is to not show the prices at all and just collect, basically have your customers request a quote. So we'd be making a decision about that. What you're saying is, given this is a smaller site, we're going to sort of run it without staff. We'd probably want to just let people book online.
Yeah,
would be the expectation here. And then in terms of you'd be having to think about smart entry. So how do people get in and out of the site as well? So let's have a chat about that. Like with my 2 sites, I have the Noki system from Janus, but there are other competitors now. So we have ones from OpenTech, we have ones from PTI. There's others. I'm sure I'm just not off the tip of my tongue, but there's lots of different options now for smart entry. So thinking about
things like Sensorberg, Bearbox. There's in the UK there's lots of options, but also further afield there's the same options plus more unique ones to your area. Yeah. And obviously one of the considerations. This is why it's important to decide on your approach. And so much of this, really think about it all together, because say you decide on Noki, your software is going to have to integrate with Noki. So you need to be thinking about your software at that point in time too. And obviously for the purpose of this, we've said Stora, but any supplier you talk to, you just have to be thinking about, do they support my chosen tools? And a lot of the time we would find, while we integrate with pretty much all the big ones now in the UK and Europe, but people will try to, find a cheaper niche solution, which is more local to them. And a lot of the times there isn't it's just not technically even possible to link that into the website and automate the move-in flow. So you just have to think about what do you invest in, and because your technology decisions are very important up front because it dictates the experience of the business. Yeah, you got to really. We have a self-storage ecosystem map, don't we, on our website? Yep. So I think if you can check that out. Normally, if you're picking new software, picking smart entry, picking any service, go to a list like that and make sure that they kind of play with the other actors in the industry. Because one of the things I think does happen is a gate. You start off by getting your gate automated, and you get a local installer comes along, and he has a solution that he uses for every business in the town or the area where he works. But it's not for self-storage, and so you'll never get an integration with that service. And if you decide to a lot of people would decide to just automate the main gate because it's usually a lot cheaper, and then you have to think about how do people get into the units? So you need a system for, either you could look into a padlock management system, which is another digital way to manage padlocks, but more often than not, what you see is people just leave padlocks on the units or in the unit, or even on like a lockbox at the front. But again, all that feels very manual and very much like human interference is needed to actually set that up. So while it's more expensive to fully automate the entire journey, like if you are not going to be there and you're not going to have somebody there all the time, it could well be worth the investment. It just depends on your desired approach for running a business.
The investment being locks on every door.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was chatting to a customer earlier today who has a system at the gates, and then he leaves all the units open. So 300 indoor units, leaves the unused ones open, and they have a padlock vending machine on the way in that they sell for €10 and €16, depending on which one you want. And that's a pretty efficient way of doing it.
That's a good solution,
The limitation there is overlocking. If we wanted to kind of not have to go down to this site, like if we want to go here once a month or once every 6 months, or have staff there at that time, it's better to have a smart entry system because you can overlock them immediately, remotely.
Yeah, but you can overlock the main gate as well. But the problem with that is that somebody else can open the gate and then they can get to the unit.
That's true. Yeah. So you can be overlocked through the main gate. That's a good point. Yeah. So the padlock solution isn't a bad solution. It's much lower cost up front, but not quite as handy going forward.
And if you're planning, but if you're working on the budgets and you just want to get into self storage, as you were saying earlier about buy versus rent, maybe that's a good solution just to kind of get in and start.
A couple of other things that sometimes, really important thing to consider is planning. So making sure, if you're going to lease a warehouse or buy a warehouse, you got to make sure that it either has the planning you need or you're very confident you'll get the planning you need. So that's planning in Northern Ireland, at least it's storage and distribution. I'm sure it's the same most places. So you want to make sure you've either got the planning or you can get it easily. I spent about a year, maybe a year and a half, trying to get the planning for my second site in Dungannon. And, until you've got the planning, even if you're 99% sure you'll get it, you don't want to go and spend £250,000 fitting stuff out. You want to wait. Another thing sometimes people would, on a site of this size, right, where the revenue maybe wouldn't be huge, sometimes people would ask, will I register for VAT from the start or not? Because, I could wait until it sort of passes the VAT threshold. You could argue that it's worth waiting for a couple of years to, until you sort of hit the threshold there. The downside of that is you won't be able to claim your VAT on your fit-out costs today, and that is a big downside, I think, if you're getting started, because if you spend £250,000 on a fit-out plus your VAT is £300,000, you're gonna. If you're VAT registered today, you can reclaim back that 50 grand. If you're not, you're going to wait. It isn't until you register in the future that you can then claim that back. So you're going to have more of a cash flow issue. The other thing is, if you were to VAT register in 2 years' time, you suddenly have to deal with 50 customers. How do you deal with those 50 customers? Because you have to change their invoices. You have to add VAT. You either take a hit on their price, or you call them up and tell them, look, your rent's gone from £100 a month to 120 because we're adding VAT. That's going to be a tough thing to go through on time. So if it was me, and for my first site, I just registered for VAT from day one, because I thought it's going to be easier. I'll get more cash in, and I don't have to worry about changing in the future. But that's something to consider. If this was if your container site can only ever turn over 80 grand a year, it may be better not to bother registering for VAT. Is there anything else that we'd think about? So
what about additional services beyond storage? Like, with this site, would you consider, I suppose, selling anything else or even upselling? Like, what would you be thinking for this?
I probably wouldn't. The percentage. Some people do sell packaging and boxes and padlocks and things. The percentage is typically so small, like 1.5% of, I think it was Lock and Store's annual revenue is boxes and packaging, and they have reception. So I wouldn't personally bother with that. I know most of our customers don't do it because they're trying to run kind of quite a lean business. You might do it if it's unmanned. I definitely, which this is, I definitely wouldn't be selling those things. I would definitely be selling insurance. So I would get in touch with the insurance providers.
And how long before opening would you be thinking about that?
I'd probably do it about 6 weeks, 8 weeks before, because you also, actually, I'd probably be thinking about it before that, because once you lease it, you have to also consider about insurance for the building as well. So you might have to take out insurance for damage or anything else. So I'd be talking to Basil Fry, the ones that most of our customers use, but there are others as well. I'd be insuring for that. But then contents insurance wise, so you want to be able to sell. It's not called contents insurance now. It's called tenant protection. But you want to sell that to customers. So 4 to 6 weeks before I open, I'd be talking to them, maybe longer, and getting that in place. But no, apart from that, I don't think I'd be thinking about any other sales, just to keep things simple.
So we have worked out how we want to run the business. We have our website set up. Hopefully on the first page of Google. We're a couple of weeks away from opening. Like, what's next?
Okay, so we're sort of fast forwarding. Like we're opening soon.
Well, we can go back if you want, but I'm jumping to the end maybe.
No, I think that's right. I don't think there's anything. I don't think we've missed anything major. Right, so we're about to open. Like promotion, trying to get some local press. I mean, sometimes you do see sites, self-storage sites, to get a bit of local press. That can't hurt. Getting the word out, making sure people know that your business is there. Yeah, I would probably do some flyer drops. We did flyer drops in Dungannon. We happened to run with a concert at Portadown when it opened.
Yeah.
And so like everyone in the town knew that this new business had landed, and I think that's word of mouth, spreading the word is just really, really important, because self-storage is such a needs-based product. You know, people aren't going to be, oh, it's finally open, I'm going to store things. But it just, when it's there, you will find, you know, people are moving house. And you want them to know that you're there, and you want you to be top of mind. So I'd probably do flyer drops. I would probably spend quite a bit on signage.
Yeah.
Depending on the location. If you said it was opposite an Aldi.
Yeah.
So, you know, you've got a great passing traffic. You want people to see it's there. I might think about some sort of a discount. I'd be checking out the competition around the area to see what they're doing around, maybe, you know, half price for the first month. I wouldn't want to escalate that. So if they aren't doing it, I probably wouldn't. But if others are doing it, I might want to match.
So how would you be pricing a facility like this compared to your competitors?
I would probably, it depends. So like if we went down the route of kind of a really high quality indoor site, and it looks like, you know, there is competition that has that already, I'd probably be trying to find out what their pricing was and be around the same. I generally wouldn't be wanting to come into somewhere and just kind of undercut, because that can be a race to the bottom. So, you know, I'd come in and, you know, price it. Maybe if there wasn't other high quality indoor sites in the town, I'd probably be sort of quite aggressive on the price, and just see what happened. One of the mistakes I made with Portadown was I went in really, really cheap early, and it was fine. Like, it filled up, but we were able to bring people's prices in line over time. But I just wasn't confident enough to know, like, you know, you can actually maintain a relatively good price here on this. So yeah, I would start with checking out competitors and seeing, and I wouldn't generally try and undercut people, because you want to avoid a price war.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think other than that, I think we're ready to open.
Great.
Okay. Well, yeah. So if you've got as far as this, some resources that we think are useful here. So Store Track for checking out the area, trying to find sites. So we've got the discount there if you want to check it out. It's Store of Friends. If you want to go to storetrack.co.uk, you can sign up for a trial there or an account there with that discount code. We've used the financial model.
Yep.
We've used we didn't really use ChatGPT. We just used that to send us down the Bury St Edmunds path. We've got our storage marketplace for finding a brand, so you can go and check that out, even just for inspiration. The self-storage ecosystem, which is on our website.
Yeah.
We have some other blog posts about getting started and finding new sites. There might be some stuff there on our website too, so check out store.co. Any other resources we went through?
Well, if you're completely new to the industry, it might be worthwhile checking out our UK Industry Insights report. It'll give you some guidance, I suppose, on what other self-storage businesses are pricing and things like that in the UK. It's always worthwhile attending some local events, trade shows as well, if you're new to the industry, just to get an idea. Just
if I can bring up the model there. So we're talking about making here a £258,000 investment, and we're going to make 75 grand a year. So I'm pretty happy with that. That's this is definitely a goer.
Yeah.
So okay. Well, thanks very much, Stephen. That was fun.
That was good.
And thanks very much for watching. And Yeah, we'll hopefully do one of these. Maybe we'll do another one of these for containers sometime soon. At Stora, our mission is to help our customers build the best self-storage businesses. Self-Storage Explained is here to bring you the best from inside and outside the industry to help you learn how to grow and scale your business. For more resources, go to stora.co/academy, including our financial model and lots of in-depth step-by-step guides on how to grow your business. To find out more about using Stora, go to stora.co and sign up for a demo. Thank you very much.